monkey, I think she means a wild animal as a mascot instead of a pet, instead of a dog or something.
I've always loved dogs best. When I was in Africa before I went to the chimps, I looked after 2 monkeys and a mongoose who'd just been abandoned and saved their lives. But of course we shouldn't have wild animal pets. They don't make good pets. And so one of our battles is to stop somebody who talked about not buying exotic pets. Was it you? Yes. Well, you're completely right. They don't make good pets. And if we find abandoned wild animals, the best thing is to try and find a sanctuary.
Una mascota como un perro gato.
Have you had dogs and cats and those sorts of pets?
I've always had a dog. I can't have a dog now because I'm traveling. But all through my childhood, when I got to university, I'd been with the chimpanzees for 1.5 years. I hadn't been to college at that point. And the professors told me all my study was wrong. They told me I shouldn't have given the chimpanzees names, they should have had numbers. They told me I couldn't talk about chimpanzees having personalities or minds capable of thinking, and certainly not emotions, because those were unique to us. But luckily I'd had this teacher all my childhood who taught me the professors were wrong, and that was my dog. Rusty, a lot of you have dogs. You all know they've got personalities, don't you? And you know that they can be happy or sad, dejected, and you know that if you hurt them, they feel pain, don't you? So I think the professors probably didn't believe what they were telling me, but they didn't know how to prove it scientifically. Anyway, I didn't change.
What do you think has been your greatest accomplishment, like in your studies and traveling all around the world?
Well, probably in the long run, I think there are 2. One is helping people to understand that animals do have personalities, minds, and feelings. That there isn't a sharp line with us standing here and all the others there. And there are many things that continue through. So that's one, and then the other one is starting roots and shoots. Bringing hope to young people around the world, because you know, you're all lucky, you're in schools where they've encouraged you to do these kind of projects. But there are an awful lot of kids who are not in schools like that. There are an awful lot of kids living in poverty. There are children who've had people killed, and they need hope. If you don't have hope, you give up.
Do you think there is enough being done for the conservation of wildlife?
Did you hear that?
Do you think there's enough being done for the conservation of wildlife?
No, absolutely not. We have to do a lot more. I mean, you know, if you have national parks and then the government decides they can come and do mining operations, that's not good enough, is it? And that's happening in many countries around the world. And, you know, you can't conserve wildlife if you're poisoning it. And no, we're not doing enough.
And why did you choose to work with chimpanzees?
I didn't. My mentor, Louis Leakey, wanted somebody to study chimpanzees, and he decided I was the person who was right for the job.
And if you didn't choose to work with the chimpanzees, what other animal would you choose to work on?
Well, I would have studied any animal back then. Any animal to be out in the wilderness.
Have you ever raised a chimpanzee? Have you ever raised a chimpanzee? Or have you loved one so much that you miss him, or when he's sad, you're sad too?
The very worst thing you can possibly do is to have a pet chimpanzee, because they don't, you know, they're not little humans. People like to dress them up and they think they're cute. Then when the chimp gets to 8 or 9, he's stronger than you, doesn't want to be a human in a human house. He wants to be free to do what chimpanzees do. By that time, he has no idea he's a chimp. He can't interact with other chimps. He becomes dangerous for people. He's all frustrated. People have been really, really badly hurt. What we do though, is look after the orphan chimps whose mothers have been shot in Africa. We have the biggest sanctuary in Africa. We have 163 orphan chimps because their mothers are shot for food. And those we have to, the caregivers have to hold them and pretend to make, to try to fill in the gap because of the mother being shot.
What can you say to children that are discouraged by the parents or people around them to follow their dreams and protect animals?
Well, we start these groups, these roots and shoots groups, and we listen to the children, and we try and link them up with people who will listen to them, and encourage them to do something which they feel will make a difference. Encourage them to think, and then to roll up their sleeves and get out and do something. And once you get a young person actually doing something, you find that makes such a big difference. And to be doing it with others who feel the same, and to know that all around the world other people like you care and feel like you do.
If you saw someone shooting the chimpanzees, what would you do?
Oh gosh, what would I do if I saw someone shooting a chimpanzee? I would probably, I don't know, it would depend on the situation. Because it's not going to help anything if I leap out and get shot myself. So, if it was a hunter on the way out to hunt a chimpanzee, I would try and, convince him that it wasn't the right thing to do. But fortunately, that's never happened.
What were the most interesting things you noticed about the chimps?
How like us they are. When they greet, they kiss, embrace, hold hands, pat one another on the back. When they're angry, they shake their fist and scowl, or they may throw rocks. The fact that they use tools, the fact they have long, supportive relationships between mothers and their growing offspring, which can last all through life. So you have a real close relationship with the mother and her adult children, and the brothers and sisters as well. And sadly, they have a dark side like us. They can be really mean and vicious and violent, and even have a sort of war and kill each other, just like us. But they also show love and compassion and altruism. That's how like us they are.
And how many years were you in Africa?
Well, I went out there first in 1957. I started the chimps in 1960. I left full-time in 1986, but the research has continued and I go back to visit. So 60 to 86 were my real years in the field.
How did you come up with the idea of roots and shoots?
Because I met young people who seemed to have lost hope in the future, and they told me that was because grown-up people had harmed their future and there was nothing they could do about it. And we have harmed your future, but I don't think it's too late to do something about it. And the kind of things you're all doing are exactly the kind of things that prove that I'm right.
Is there any other animal you have been close with besides the chimpanzees?
Well, I spent quite a lot of time with baboons at Gombe. I spent a whole year with hyenas, which was absolutely fascinating. And I spent quite a bit of time with mongooses and bush pigs. But other than that, dogs. And one of the horrors that's going on in Africa now is the slaughtering of elephants for their ivory. I would love to have studied elephants, and we're now trying to do campaigns about not buying ivory. I don't suppose that's a problem here, is it? Is there a problem with buying ivory or rhino horn?
No, not to that extent.
No.
With the turtles.
Yeah, turtles.
So,
What's
This she.
okay, so.
I wanted
want to know your opinion on places that use animals as some mode of entertainment.
But places that use them as entertainment.
As entertainment.
Yeah, well, it's something we're trying to stop. That's one of the things. To use wild animals in circuses or in, traveling exhibits. There are some good zoos now which have really understood how they should treat their animals, but there are not very many of them. And we keep seeing animals used in advertising. It's particularly bad with the chimps, because to train the chimp for entertainment, you take them away from their mothers when they're very tiny. So they never learn how to be a chimp.
And when you were a girl and there was like jungles in Asia, jungles in America and Africa, why did you, of all of them, did you choose Africa?
Because of Tarzan. But I also loved the animals there. I read other books after Tarzan. I just loved the idea of the African forests and the African plains and savannas with all those animals.
Any closing words?
Well, the closing, if we have to close down now, my closing words would be that I'm really glad that I was here and met you all, and to congratulate you all on the projects that you've done, about which I shall learn more, and I hope that this won't be goodbye, and that you will, some of you anyway, join our Roots and Shoots family, so that you can meet some of the other young people like you who are changing the world, like you all are. So that's all I need to say, I think. Thank you for your projects and your hard work and your passion and your commitment, and don't stop. This is just the beginning. Keep it up.